Welcome to Galactic Retreat, Embody Your Soul Mission. Today, I have a beautiful guest, Chara Armon. Let me read through Chara's bio. Chara Armon, PhD, is the founder of the School for Humans and Earth. She is a thought leader and teacher who believes we are ready to renew Earth and heal ourselves in the process. Through the Humans and Earth podcast, e-courses, and mentoring, she supports people who are connecting to Earth and discerning their next level contribution to the thriving of people and the planet. Welcome, Chara. It's an honor to have you here today.
Thank you, Rayania. I'm really happy to be with you.
Yeah. So Chara, would you like to share with us that do you feel you are embodying your soul mission at this stage of your life? And how have you come to this stage of your evolution?
Yes. Well, I think we embody our soul mission in stages. So I think of mine in probably three categories. One is relationships. I'm a teacher, a mother, a wife, a family member, a friend. Another is the personal path of healing and renewal. And mine has been very complex and challenging and rewarding. And then I think, there's the biggest sense of the soul mission. And for me, that is mentoring the renewal of the human-earth relationship and our regeneration of well-being for the planet and all of her plants and animals and ecosystems, and also for ourselves, because as we'll talk about today, I really believe that our well-being is completely intertwined with Earth's.
Yeah, definitely. That is why I'm so excited to have you here, because I know a lot of spirituality or personal development work has been emphasizing that we are here to do what we are here to do, discovering our purpose, and even creating the business or change the career to be successful. But very few people have talked about our connection with the earth. And I know many people actually feel called, or like there's an inkling that we are here really to save or to create a new relationship with the earth.
Yeah, I think you put that really well. And I think that something that we are going to totally change in this century is we're going to recognize that our self-development and our spiritual development are completely connected with the so-called environmental movement. And I would actually like to see that term environmental movement kind of go away, because siloing it as something separate, like, well, I'm on a spiritual path or I work for the earth, right? Or I have this profession or I help the earth. That has not helped us, and it's actually not even accurate. So, to come back to the beautiful topic of your event, I truly believe that connecting to and collaborating with our home planet is everybody's soul mission at some level. I mean, this planet, we could talk for a long time about science, and we won't do that today, but this planet is our life support system. There is no planet like her in the known universe. And, she's lush, she's beautiful, she's supported this long, gorgeous, complex, painful human story. And we cannot be embodied in this earth experience without her. So, there are lots of ways we can talk about this, but I really, really believe that if we're going to talk about soul mission on planet Earth, that our relationship to the planet is part of everybody's soul mission at some level.
I love that you make that statement, because I know that my understanding is that we will all reincarnate here to do different things for our personal soul journey, soul evolution, and with certain trauma to overcome for our personal empowerment. But at the same time, we chose to be born at this specific juncture of the transition on the earth consciousness change. So ultimately, it is part of our work to be here to enter a new relationship. And it's not to say, okay, we need to save the earth, because I think that's also come with a different energy that is actually disempowering to the earth and to the human collective. So I would like you to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I love how you mentioned that. So, I mean, the first thing that I would say, like you, I believe that there is a shift in consciousness occurring, and I believe that intuitively, and because of the spiritual teachers I study, but also as a historian. I mean, I've worked for decades as a historian, and I think there are a lot of reasons to believe that we are, in fact, undergoing a shift in consciousness here. Many people for, let's say, at least 150 years have talked about that shift in consciousness as going toward unity, I'll say, at the biggest level. We can also talk about equality, which is very, very important, but I think maybe unity is the biggest framing of that. That unity consciousness is not only about humans, it's about humans and the earth, humans and plants, humans and animals. They are literally all our sisters and brothers. And it's no surprise that there's a lot of interest in recent decades in indigenous spirituality, whether that's North American indigenous teachings or South American or Australian or those from Asia or from old Europe, because Earth's indigenous peoples have always known that the trees and the birds outside my window, they are literally my siblings. And of course, we can talk about 20th century genetics and understandings of evolution and say, even from a scientific perspective, everything here, including the bacteria and the fungi, everything, literally my sibling. So this conversation about the shift in consciousness or unity consciousness, I'd say it's going really beautifully in a lot of ways, but in the last century, we've especially focused on unity consciousness among people. And our next step is to realize unity consciousness applies to every single being that is present on our planet and also elsewhere off our planet.
Yeah. So I wanted to bring up a question, so for people who are currently going through their career change, or they wanted to find meaning for their life, or people who have been on their spiritual journey and then they wanted to open to their next step of service. So how does unity and this relationship with the earth could support them?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So I like to start in what I think is the simplest and the most fundamental way, and talk to people about any way that they can deepen and grow whatever relationship with Earth they already have. So, to take a simple example, if you go jogging or walking every day, but you have headphones in while doing that, go outside, or maybe you just sit in your garden or sit in your balcony, spend your time outside without the headphones and actually tuning in to whatever is around you. I really like to emphasize you can absolutely do this in a city, because you always have the sky, you probably have some trees, you probably have some birds, the water cycle of rain or snow is always happening, you've got sunlight. So if you can get into a more natural space, any kind of park or anything a little bit wilder, that's lovely, but you can certainly deepen your connection to the natural world and Earth anywhere you are. The reason to do that is that this planet is not only the life support system for our bodies, but also in a lot of ways, she's the life support system for our energy fields. And I think she is she's a crucial teacher for us right now in all kinds of ways that we don't even have time to name. But one is that whether we're talking in historical terms or spiritual terms, there does appear to be a resurgence of divine feminine energy occurring on the planet. And we could just talk about so many examples, even going back to the movements to get the vote for women, or equal protections and opportunities for women, in very practical ways and in really profound spiritual ways. There's a long-term movement going on to rebalance masculine and feminine energies and to bring all of us back to the heart-centered divine feminine energies. Earth is a really, really, really good teacher of that. Maybe the best teacher. I mean, it's wonderful if you can connect to Divine Mother, or I actually really would love to mention some of the divine feminine's names in the world religious traditions, because I think it really helps us all conceptualize this. So, you know, you might be able to connect to Sophia consciousness or Divine Mother. A lot of us know that in the Greco-Roman and Egyptian traditions, the divine feminine had, you know, so many names: Demeter, Diana, Gaia, Isis, Hathor. In Judaism, she can be called Shekinah, El Shaddai. There is, in the Hebrew scriptures, references to the creator in motherly terms. In Christianity, we have Mary, Mary Magdalene, Grandmother Anna, and a very, very complex medieval mystical tradition of God as mother. In Buddhism, we have Tara and Kuan Yin. Hinduism has so many dynamic examples of the divine feminine, from Parvati and Kali to Durga and Lakshmi. And in Islam, the name Rahman refers to the creator as a womb space. You mentioned the Ascended Master tradition. We have Lady Portia and Lady Nada. And then indigenous traditions worldwide sometimes have even more names for the divine feminine than they do for the divine masculine. You know, Sky Woman in North America, Ishel in the South American traditions, Angea from the Australian Aboriginal tradition. So we've talked a lot in the last few decades about the divine feminine in the world's religious and spiritual traditions. And again, if you can connect to the divine feminine through those beings or those emanations of her, I think that's superb. And Earth can help you do this. So, you know, to come directly back to your question, if someone is trying to step more fully into their soul mission, and probably also their own well-being, because most people in industrialized countries right now are kind of out of balance due to the pressures and the excessively masculine energies and the domination energies in industrialized cultures. So if you're trying to step more fully into your soul mission, you're probably working on your own wellness and well-being also. And interacting with Earth is one of the easiest ways to come into your body, come into your heart, experience this feminine energy, and find yourself in a more balanced mental, physical, spiritual experience of yourself. I can say that I think a lot of us, myself included, we've tried to find our soul mission in a very intellectual way, or sometimes also just in a spiritual way, right? Like, well, I'm going to take care of my body, but my whole soul mission is basically something I encounter from the neck up. I think we've really missed a lot with that, because oftentimes the place where you find your soul mission is more like in your heart space. I mean, certainly maybe in your third eye and your upper chakras, but also in your heart space, and also maybe in your lower, very embodied chakras. So spending time with Earth, I mean, you can simply go outside in a mindful way and receive huge support with all of this. but then connecting directly to earth or deliberately collaborating with earth energies and earth beings, I think can just take you so much farther on whatever your own path of personal development and soul mission and contribution might be.
Yeah, so beautiful. I love what you brought through, so many aspects of divine feminine throughout cultural civilizations, religion, spirituality, lineage. And I feel there's so much we could dive into in that direction as well. But what came through when you were sharing is that, like when you were talking about this connection with the earth, it just really, I just realized that our ability and our connection, our ability to be able to connect to the earth or get to feel this feel from the plants, the animals, the minerals, actually is also the doorway to connect to ourselves, isn't it? Because we are all one. We are the same ingredients. I say the ingredients or materials that's made out of the earth. So that feels very profound, because I think spiritually or personal development, we were always taught to, seek further outside, create this and go out to the galactics and connect to the spiritual angels. But in the end of the day, it's really bring everything back to our physical body and to the earth. So
yeah, I think that's really true. It is really true. And I've come to realize so much more just in the last few years. If you are embodied on earth, then your body is an important part of your experience, and earth's physical being is an important part of your experience. So, if you're having a soul experience in a less physical realm in the cosmos, then that's that soul experience. But when we're here in the physical, we need to be in the physical. And for more and more of us to do that consciously and lovingly could completely turn things around on this planet. And, that's another angle that I've really been thinking about a lot recently, that we're actually meant to be Earth's lovers, not her dominators. And I see so much of our so-called environmental and even our health and spirituality movements often still kind of have this basis in fear and the problem. Climate change is very serious. Ecosystems are collapsing. There are so many threats to human health right now. So it's important to acknowledge all of that. But I've realized, especially recently, that it's actually our love and our delight that is going to be the true motivator. And, you can look at I'll just take two big examples, the environmental movement and the human health movement in the last few decades. Mm-hmm. They've often been about fear, don't eat this, don't do that. We need to stop polluting the planet. People have not responded to that very well, right? We still have a lot of sick people. We have a planet that is quite unwell by a lot of measures. So I think this embodied experience, and we'll do this in the practice, but this embodied experience of how delightful it is to be here and how much pleasure there is in breathing the air or touching the water or touching an animal or a plant or, eating something from the earth. That's going to be the real foundation of us being in our bodies, wanting to be in our bodies, and wanting to make this planet a true place of flourishing for all of her beings.
Yeah. So I'd like to bring in that in your teaching, you mentioned wise focus. Yeah. Could you share a little bit about that? Because I feel like when you were talking about this, luxurious and joyful connection, like, to enjoy this body, smell the spring, the summer in the North Hemisphere, it's summer now. So I see so many people are just out and about in the park, on the beach, in the mountains, really taking in this freedom and this joy of life. So I feel a lot of people really, when they're out in the nature, they appreciate the nature. But at the same time that, it's almost like becomes separate. Like one thing it is to enjoy the nature in summer on the beach, but another thing is the environmental movement or the news or the earth is so unwell in, like, this crisis. So it's actually bring up such a heavy burden that I feel it separate people from even wanting to engage.
No, I think it's really true. It's really true. I have separated myself from the environmental movement a lot because I recognized after engaging with it for a number of years that the fear strategies, and I'm still on the newsletter lists of a lot of respected environmental organizations, and I really appreciate their work. But the email headlines are so often designed, and the headlines in the media, they're so often designed to provoke fear. And we actually know now from neuroscience, from psychology, that fear is a good motivator in the moment, but it's not a very good long-term motivator. So when we tell people this ecosystem is in danger, this animal is in danger, the climate is in danger, that tends to lead to shutdown rather than to loving engagement. So I have been talking about wise focus as an approach that we can justify through neuroscience and psychology, and also through so many spiritual teachings, whether we're talking about, kind of the 20th century New Age or New Thought teachings, or the mystical teachings from the world religions. We create what we focus on. And so if we're spending our time being really panicked about the climate or the state of the world's water or soils, I don't think that's a creative space. And when I observe the people in my world who are very anxious, very scared, a lot of them are not in a very creative space of contributing to solutions. So what I really recommend to people is, of course, we need to be aware of the problems that Earth is experiencing and that humanity is experiencing. We have serious poverty and human injustice on this planet, along with the suffering of Earth and her plants and animals. But once you have some knowledge of that and inner acknowledgement, then I really advocate that people choose the wise focus. Choose to notice what's going well, what's beautiful, what's precious, the creative endeavors people are implementing to help people and planet. There's actually so much to be excited about right now. I could tell you the story of the serious trouble that the world's soils are in.
Yeah.
Or I could tell you the story of the regenerative strategies, some of which are ancient and some of which are new, that are being implemented around the world to restore the soil. Now, which one is going to make you feel hopeful and like you want to engage? Which story is going to make you pay a little bit more for the regeneratively grown or the biodynamically grown produce at your market? I mean, I think it's very much the wise focus, inspiring, hopeful story. That is also the one that tends to connect us to our hearts, because it's really hard to be in your heart when you're terrified. So I think, we just really need to encourage one another right now with the wise intellectual stance, mental stance, and then also keeping your heart's focus on what you love. And, I'll give a practical example. I live outside of Philadelphia. It's a large metropolitan area in the United States. We have some significant air pollution, and I can notice that today or on a day when it's more noticeable, or I can notice that the plants in my yard are lush and green, and because I maintain my space without any chemicals, I have so many bird species in my yard, and I've planted fruit trees and berry bushes, and I have vegetables growing in my annual beds, and the insects are thriving because I don't use any kinds of sprays. So, do I have some concern that we absolutely need to turn around our air toxic emissions worldwide and clean up our air? Totally. But I can also notice that in this space I've created, or in the nature preserves in my area, or in the huge public park in Philadelphia, a lot is going well for the natural world. And that's what I can choose to nurture. And that's also what's in my power. These big, scary stories about climate change, I think, leave people very, very disempowered. But there's so much you can do on the local level. So much. And that's where our human sovereignty and empowerment really come into play.
Yeah, I love to hear that. Yes, I do feel like when I'm listening to you talking about the positive side, then I feel more inclined to know, okay, so what little things I can do in my environment is to help, to contribute, because, they are also to know that there are a lot of people are creatively regenerating the resources for the earth. It's just really, it's almost like it gives me the strength as well to join this positive movement, instead of reading the newsletter and say, okay, one more animal is extinct, and I just feel like, okay, I don't know what I can do except just to delete the email. So I'm very curious that I know you also mentor people with their journey of regeneration with the earth. Can you share a little bit about that? How does that look like, and what kind of people normally do you work with?
Yeah, so in the biggest way I would describe that is very compatible with the theme of your event. Is I really want to support my clients in taking their soul mission seriously, because what I see a lot of us still doing, especially people in industrialized countries, and especially people who are educated and who are professionals, is talking ourselves out of whatever is in your heart, that you really feel called to do something with children and nature, or the elderly and nature, or regenerative agriculture, or forests. I mean, we could go on and on and on and on. I think a lot of people feel these callings, and some of them are focused pretty much only on people and not on the planet. And I like to support those people too, because there's so much exhaustion among activists and contributors. And even if your focus is primarily on people, connecting to and collaborating with Earth can really support you. But overall, I really want to encourage people to believe that whatever your sense of calling is, it's so legitimate, it's so valid, you really can do it. It might involve making a contribution in your existing workplace. It might be something you do at home or as a volunteer, or it might involve transforming your work in the world. But we need to stop talking ourselves out of our vision, because so many people inherently know in their bodies, in their hearts, in their souls, they know how we can create flourishing here. But then they'll say, well, that's a really good idea, but it would be too hard. Or that is really what I want to do, but I don't think I could make money doing that. Then we all stay stuck here together. So I know it's complicated. I mean, I have children to support. I'm living a pretty standard middle-class existence. I have a mortgage and a car payment. And, I understand that for a lot of us, the practicalities are very real, but I just fundamentally believe we have got to stop talking ourselves out of our missions and our healing, nurturing visions, because those of us who are here now are here to create restoration and regeneration. Again, whether your focus is primarily people or primarily the natural world or the relationship of the two, And so whatever you are feeling that you want to bring forth, and it might just be at your household level, I think like having a toxin-free home and yard that are hospitable to birds and plants, that is such a valid thing to do. And supporting local regenerative agriculture in any way you can afford, whether that's like you spend an extra $10 a week or you try to get most of your food that way. Those are such valid things to do. And then of course, some people are really called to do something in their community or maybe even on a global scale. But that's one of my key interests, is supporting people in believing that their vision and their sense of calling is valid and it's actionable. They really can put it into physical reality.
Yeah, that is such an important work, right? Because I spoke to many people, and then through the stress of life, the responsibilities, many people choose to forget or didn't know they have the ability to connect to their vision. So,
and I think the wise focus comes in here also, because if you're reading the mainstream media and you're seeing all the things that are bad, then you feel like your inspired vision is just impossible. If you start reading the news sources that, and I've got a little ebook on my website that guides people in wise focus and inspired optimism. But if you start reading the news sources that are reporting on what's good, what's going well, the people cleaning up beaches in India and replanting forests in Asia and Africa, then you start thinking, oh, like if they can do that, then my idea is valid too. So I think that's a really important aspect here, because when we're not practicing wise focus, it's even easier to talk ourselves out of that mission. And when we're not connecting to Earth as part of our life purpose here, it's easy to talk yourself out of your vision.
Yeah, actually what comes through is that I think it's through our journey of, if we feel that nudge when you say that so many people have this calling actually to work with the earth or work with people and animal. I feel like it's wise to start looking for the community, right? To start looking for the people who share the similar ideas and vision with you, and to really engage with like-minded people looking together toward what we want to create and what we can create. Because I think that together, like our conversation right now actually just ignite so much more than just one and one. It creates a synergy, and if we could really bring the awareness, like contribute each other's strength in to spread the message, or just wake people up to join forces, then it's gonna be so much more powerful than what our linear mind can conjure up, isn't it?
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. So I still have so many questions, but I also know that you have prepared a practice for us to experience the connection with the earth, the divine feminine. Do you feel it's appropriate to guide us through that journey now?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
So I'll start by going back to what I said earlier, that you can begin to give attention to your relationship with Earth and the natural world anytime that you're outdoors or looking out a window. Put your electronics away and simply give some open attention. What is the weather like and how is it beautiful? That's a whole other conversation, is people complaining about the weather, and we won't go there. But I'll just say, what's going on my part of Earth today, and how is it beautiful? And then when you have 2 minutes or half an hour, it's really up to you, you can experience your relationship with Earth with more depth. So I will walk people through one way that I like to do that. There are lots of ways. You could sit with a tree, for example, and if we have time, maybe we will talk about connecting directly to plants. So know that there are many ways that you can really step into conscious relationship with Earth. And here is one. So I don't think you can do this while you're driving, but you can do it while standing, while sitting. You can do it indoors or outdoors. And the first step is to be aware of your own body and your own physical experience. Try to turn down your thinking mind and your thought processes and see if you can put your attention in your heart space. And then take your attention down your body, down your chakra column, down your legs, into your feet, and recognize that Earth is beneath your feet. Earth is supporting you. She is this exquisite, lusciously beautiful and generous life support system who enables literally every aspect of your existence to occur here on this planet. And you might want to become aware of your Earth surroundings where you are, whatever trees or plants or animals are present, what the soil looks like, what the terrain looks like. And then I really like to drop my attention and presence right down into the center of Earth. And some people like to do this very gradually, like experiencing energy roots coming out of your legs and feet and going into the top layer of soil and then deeper. And I think that's really beautiful, but I like to just drop my awareness rather quickly and directly straight into Earth's center, if that's comfortable for you, and you can test this out. And what I experienced there, and I know I'm not alone in this because other people discuss it, is a very vibrant, pure, crystalline energy of this planet and her essence. And you can experience how this energy of Earth is available for you. You are here, you're incarnated for a reason here. Maybe you feel clear on what that reason is, and maybe you don't. But if you're here, this rich, luscious, bright, loving, extremely supportive and nurturing crystalline Earth energy is for you. It's available to you. And you can explore this a lot and have all kinds of experiences that might change on given days based on what you need, based on how you're interacting with Earth's energies. So you might experience healing, inspiration, comfort. Ideally, you feel very grounded and present in your body while you're doing this. And what I think is really wonderful is as you practice, you learn when you are experiencing your relationship to Earth, you learn to be the connecting point between the heavens and the earth. So you can feel your upper chakras, your soul, maybe your soul identity, your higher self. You can perceive that part of you. You are perceiving and being present in your body, and you are perceiving and being present to Earth. And you experience yourself as this amazing place physical, embodied, spiritual, energetic, emotional, intellectual, where the heavenly celestial energies and the earth energies meet. And this is soul mission, right? I mean, in terms of the focus of your event, experiencing yourself as the connecting point where the heavens and earth meet, that is one of the most beautiful ways to feel and see and know and learn about your soul mission. So while you're doing that, what I think is also exquisite and nurturing and inspiring, and it's not receiving enough attention right now, so I'm just delighted to bring attention to this now, is you can specifically experience the divine feminine energy that is embodied in earth. Now, notably, humans for millennia have viewed earth as feminine. We can go back to the Neolithic prehistoric peoples, the Greeks, many, many. So this is not a new idea that earth is feminine. You can experience this incredibly lush, loving, luscious, exquisite, creative, productive, nurturing energy of the divine feminine right here on the planet. So you can do that in this meditative experience where you're maintaining some connection to your upper chakras and soul identity, to your body, to deep in the center of earth, and open yourself up to the divine feminine energies of the planet. I can pretty much guarantee you, you'll have some beautiful experiences. You may just feel very nurtured, very peaceful, very supported. A lot of humans alive today, I mean, really most, have experienced some kind of trauma, and we have not all had true nurturing in our families of origin, not to speak of, our education, our workplaces, etc. Earth is truly happy to provide that nurturing love that a lot of us have missed out on in some way. So you can experience that. You can explore this relationship with Earth and ask for guidance on your soul mission, because your soul mission is meant to be expressed here on this planet. So Earth is a really, really important guide and voice in that. And, as we talked about earlier, there are all kinds of reasons to believe that there is a rebalancing of masculine and feminine energies occurring on this planet. The feminine energies need to once again be deeply honored. So if you want to know, what does that feel like? You can do this process with Earth. You can also sit with a tree, or you can just observe the seasons. I mean, a lot of what happens here on this planet is a feminine nurturing process. And so if you want to know more about those divine feminine energies, you can do this process we just walked through of exploring your relationship to Earth. You can also go outside and pay attention without distractions. So those are a couple of things to try.
That was amazing. I was just floating. I'm just feeling so nurtured. Thank you so much. Yeah. So I also would like to, so thank you so much for this practice. I realize we haven't talked a lot about your journey and your personal connection to the earth. Do you feel drawn to share your direct connection with the earth?
Yeah, I can share some about that. And I have some podcast episodes in my Humans and Earth podcast that talk some about that. So I grew up in a really beautiful place, a rural place in the high mountains of Colorado. So I was actually a really intellectual and bookish kid. I wanted to be with my books all the time, but my parents took me and my brother outdoors a lot into these, I mean, I now know as an adult, these pristine, exquisite, unbelievably beautiful places in the high mountains of Colorado. So that really had an impact on me. And my mom was interested in nutrition and herbs, and my parents were both interested in gardening and camping, which as a kid, I didn't like camping, and it's still not exactly totally my favorite. But anyway, I had all of these really, really nice grounding experiences of interaction with Earth when I was growing up. And then I got on this really intellectual journey. I wanted to be a scholar. I wanted to be a historian. I was totally focused on the human spiritual experience. And so I spent, I mean, a good 20 plus years focusing mostly on the human spiritual tradition, history of religion and spirituality. And I raised 3 kids during that time. And then I started really getting concerned about the state of the environment, particularly when my kids were little. I chose to be a stay-at-home mom. And here in the Philadelphia area, we get these air quality alert days in the summer when you're not supposed to play outside. And I would think, wait a minute, I'm choosing to work very part-time right now so that I can give my children a lot of time in nature. And we have these days when we're not supposed to go outside. This is really messed up and scary. And so to make a long story short, I first started engaging in environmental and political activism. And then I got really scared and I started developing some health problems. Like I was worried about air pollution. So it's no surprise I developed asthma. And, you know, through this journey, all the while keeping up my spiritual studies, I just started realizing over time the way that we've separated the human spiritual, psychological, and self-development movements from the environmental movement is completely messed up and misguided and not going to lead to flourishing or even survival here, because really what's true is we're all in this together. All the people, all the plants, all the animals, all the ecosystems, the air, the water, the soil, the nature spirits, the plant consciousness, the animal consciousness. And so if we want to have a thriving human experience here, then whether or not nature is a big interest for you, you need to engage in some way because this is our ground. This is our life support system. So that's kind of a short version of my path.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I just feel that there's so the conversation has really been eye-opening and empowering. And I feel like what you brought through is really the embodiment of your own experience, but also your gifts that you are sharing, advocating. And I know you are very active on your podcast. You've been, have a lot of conversation with a lot of very heart-centered people who have deep connection and passion for this earth and humanity. So I thank you for the beautiful work you've been doing. And I wonder if there's any message that you would like to share that you feel that we haven't talked about yet.
I would like to talk a little bit about connecting directly to plants, because that can also be a very easy and fun and nurturing way to support yourself and the planet. And so I think I'll give two possibilities that people can consider. One is just spend time with a plant you are attracted to. It's very easy to do this with a tree because not all trees want to communicate directly with people, but a lot of trees do. I've had some amazing experiences. I think especially right now, the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom want to help us create restoration on this planet. So you might try to connect to a tree and, maybe that tree doesn't really want to connect with you, but ask a couple more trees, because I guarantee you a lot of the plants right now, they want to be in conversation with people. I want to briefly point out that there's starting to be a scientific literature on this. So I'm going to focus mostly on the spiritual aspect, but for people who have an intellectual inclination, as I often do, or a science-focused interest, you can look at the work of Dr. Sarah Abbott, Dr. Jim Conroy, Dr. Monica Galliano, Dr. Suzanne Simard. Those are just a few of the names of people who actually are researching plant consciousness and humans' ability to directly connect with plants. But to keep it simple for now, ask the plant that you are attracted to if it would like to be in communication with you. Watch for a feeling of yes or no in your heart. You might get a message in your mind. It kind of depends how your energy body works, but try to do this from a heart-centered place. And you might just be amazed by how you can learn or feel connected or supported or nurtured or inspired by connecting to, communicating with a plant. The next step, and I teach this in one of my courses, is then to learn to make that a collaborative relationship, because that's our next frontier here, is to stop being a dominating presence and become a collaborative presence. We probably don't have time to talk about that today, but that's an overview of a direction people can explore. I'll also mention that a lot of support can be gained from plant essences, also essential oils. I love essential oils. I'm not an expert. I use them just for my own support and pleasure. Plant essences are more of an energetic, vibrational, less of a physiological support. And there are so many. The so-called Bach, although it's actually meant to be pronounced Bach flower essences, developed in Wales and England in the mid-20th century, are probably the most well-known line. But here in the United States, we have dozens and dozens and dozens of companies producing flower and plant essences. You can also make your own. You just need to be aware that if you're working with a plant that might be toxic for people to ingest, then you make your essence in a particular way. But I wanted to mention two particular essences that I think can really be supportive to people right now. One is star jasmine. There are indeed a lot of very challenging things going on the planet right now. A lot of people are experiencing stress and strain and difficulty with being hopeful. Star jasmine is a lightener. It will help you to feel more hopeful and more connected to your heart and to putting your higher and lower chakras in conversation. Two other groups of essences that I really love for soul mission are the sunflowers and the daisies. So there are numerous sunflower species and numerous daisy species. So, we could count, there are probably at least 50 sunflower essences out there in the world and quite a few daisy essences. But they're really good for supporting the third chakra and your sense of empowerment and sovereignty. And a lot of people need that right now. Coming back to what you and I were talking about how so many people, they have this sense of soul mission, but they talk themselves out of it, or they don't feel supported, or they're only reading the bad news in the world. And so they feel like their soul mission can never be implemented. So explore the sunflower and the daisy essences for increasing your sense of personal power and sovereignty and your ability to be a creator in the world.
That is so amazing. So amazing. So much helpful information and practical tools, right? Like definitely, I think I'll get a lot of sunflower and daisy essential oil for myself. Yeah, thank you. It just I'm just feel such a pleasure and privilege to have you here with us today to talk about, it's a huge topic, like connection with the earth, and I think coming back to what we just started, that so many of us who were born this time actually are here to co-create and with the earth, whatever we choose to do, whether it's just a baker or architect, in the end of the day, we are part of the earth, and we are really here to co-create this new frequency and the new earth that we wish, like so many of us wish to see, a new society, new structure, new system that genuinely takes care of everyone equally, and we get to thrive, all of us, and to be creative. So yeah.
Yes, you say that beautifully, Rayania. And earth is our helper in that. If I was going to sum up in one way what we've talked about today, it is to agree with everything you just said and to encourage people, know that earth is our supporter, our guide, our ally. We can learn to collaborate with her and her beings, and then actually achieve in an easier, more delightful, beautiful way everything that you just talked about.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I wanted to ask on behalf of people, if people who wish to work with you, to follow you, to listen more to you, I know they can listen to your podcast, and you also have a school. And would you like just to share briefly how?
Yes, I'd love to. So people are welcome to follow me on Instagram. The account is at School Humans Earth. And I share short inspirations, ideas, photos from my garden and nature. And the podcast is called Humans and Earth. And there are just some really wonderful interviews there with people who are doing beautiful work in the world. Also solo episodes featuring just me. And if you go to humansandearth.com, you can learn about one-on-one sessions with me for mentoring, coaching. Flower essences, tree essences are an optional part of that. And I also have a course that I am just passionate about. It's called Collaboration with Earth. And you can find it on the courses tab at humansandearth.com. It walks people through a step-by-step personal process of establishing this relationship with the natural world and allowing it to nurture and support you with whatever contribution you feel called to bring forward.
Yeah, we will share the link in the interview below. And yeah, I definitely encourage people to take up the offer and to engage with Chara if you feel called to answer your longing and nudges to co-create and regenerate the earth resources. So thank you again, Chara, for your time, for sharing your wisdom, your experience, and I really appreciate your work. Thank you.
Thank you, Rayania. Such a pleasure to be in conversation with you, and thanks for creating this wonderful event.
Thank you. Thank you. So stay tuned for more interview to come tomorrow, and I wish you all a wonderful day. Until next time, bye.